it's more importantly that you look after your physical heart. Now, why would I say that? Well, you see, we've got lots of people in this room that are very passionate about mindset, about empowerment, and I love all of those things too. But we've just agreed, apart from one lady in here, that actually health is more important than wealth. And the key to that is looking after your heart, because you see, heart disease kills 1 in 2 people in the Western world today. So if you just take a look to the person to your left, if that's not, or you're right, if that's not them, then it might be you. And heart disease accounts for more deaths than the next 7 reasons for death combined. And heart disease encompasses all sorts of things, including heart attacks. You've heard of heart attacks, yeah? Okay, so I know there's about 30 of us in this room. Only 7 people survive their first heart attack. So that means if there's 30 people in here, 9 of us will die of our first heart attack. And what's scary about that is that heart disease is known as the silent killer, because there is no warning. Have you ever had a situation where you've known somebody and somebody you know, or they seem fit and they've died, and you think, oh, gosh, that was a surprise. That was a surprise. You've had that?
Yeah. Actually, he was 30. He had a heart attack at the age of 28.
28.
Yes, and he survived.
Yeah.
And at the age of 33, he had another heart attack. They took him to hospital in emergency. Hospital put him on hold for 3 hours. And after 3 hours, when they put him on stretcher, he was already finished.
Oh. And what's really important that you understand on top of all of that, because we are in a room of women here, is that, ladies, we are protected by heart disease because of our female hormones. Okay? Until we get to about 50, when we are postmenopausal, and then we catch up with the men in terms of our risk, but actually what's more important is we overtake them. So the rates of death from heart attack, cardiovascular disease, is 53% for women and 47% for men. Raise your hand if you're surprised at that, please. Yeah, I was surprised at that too, because as women, we tend to think of, oh, it's breast cancer, or it's ovarian cancer, it's those kind of things that are going to kill us, don't we? Would you agree? But actually you want more risk on heart disease. So you might be thinking, well, hang on a minute. Why are the heart disease rates going up? Well, Fulke has almost already referred to some of the reasons for why heart disease is going up. Despite all the reasons, all the facts that we've got so much science now, we've got all this amazing intervention, we've got the drug therapies, we've got all the scientific studies, heart disease is going up, because the disease megatrends of the 21st century are also going up. And those are obesity, diabetes, autoimmune disease, cancer. 1 in 3 people in the UK are clinically obese today. That's scary enough. What's really scary is that 1 in 4 of our 13 to 16-year-olds are also clinically obese. And unfortunately, that's a higher rate for ladies, for girls, than it is for boys. And that's having a massive impact on their hormonal health. I don't have time to go into that today. So now's a really important time to do this. Because as an entrepreneur, as a woman or a gentleman, and if you've made a promise to your family, to your clients, whoever it is, you can either decide to be a really good example or a really horrible warning. Catherine Aird said that. She's an author. You might like to write it down. In this life, you can either be a good example or you can be a horrible warning. Now, why is that so important to me? Well, I'd like to tell you why, and I'm going to do that by sharing my story with you. So I'd like to take you back to November, one very cold November morning. You know, November mornings are really horrible and miserable, aren't they? And if you're with me on this November morning, I'm sitting in a room, a small room, with a lady opposite me who has very short, spiky hair, glasses around a bead around her neck, and she has a blue nurse's uniform. Well, Jim, your results aren't good. You definitely got protein in your sample. and we got your results back. You've got high cholesterol, your other blood results aren't very good, and oh, you've put on quite a lot of weight since you were here last. What on earth is going on? Oh, well, Dawn, I've had just the most stressful summer. It's been awful, actually. My dad's, you know, his dementia's getting worse. My daughter's struggling to settle into the 6th form, which is really a surprise. I've had a terrible time, you know, just all through the summer, but it's work, really. That woman I work for, you know, how long have you known me? 20 years? I'm not like this. She's, well, I call her Miss Management, as you know. She's like Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde. I never know where I am. The team's all upset. They're on the phone to me. I'm not sleeping. My hormones are all over the shop. Actually, I'm feeling a bit low. Okay, Jill, well, look, I'm actually going to make you an appointment with the doctor this afternoon because I think, you know, I can give you antibiotics, but I think you need perhaps a little bit more help. Maybe in terms of some antidepressants or some counselling. Tell me, have you had any thoughts of harming yourself? What? What? Oh my God. Why would she ask me that question? Have you ever been in a situation where somebody said something to you and you think, you don't know me?
Yeah.
How could you get me so wrong? What a ridiculous thing to say. But you see, that weekend, I had a lot of thinking to do. And I was looking back. Have you heard the expression, looking back in hindsight? Hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And when I looked back over the previous 2 years, I could see that the stress and the upset that had happened to me largely through my work had got me to this point on this November morning. So I had a decision to make, didn't I? Yeah. So on the Tuesday, I resigned from my job. Happy days. And I phoned my lovely friend Sarah, who is a Pilates teacher and a health coach. My Pilates teacher, she's known me for 13 years. She said, oh, thank goodness for that. It's about time you did that. I've been watching you get worse and worse and worse. Why don't you come to our health talk next week, right up your street? I know I've been inviting you for 2 years and you haven't come, but you're going to come this time, aren't you? So, the following Thursday, you'll find me in a room actually about like this, except it had dark wood panelling. It's in a very posh hotel in Stamford. Dark wood panelling, but there was a PowerPoint at the front with a little lady with very short, dark hair, little elf in the face, one of those women that can wear their hair short. And she was one of the premier naturopaths in the country. And she was talking about how your gut health affects your overall health. That 90% of your health is in your gut. And in that moment, I suddenly realised, do you remember I was looking back in hindsight? Remember that? I realised in that moment that there was something that had happened to me that was so catastrophic in the summer of that year that was what tipped me over the edge of all that stress. It'd been building up and I'd been ignoring it. My friend told me about it, but I thought I was Superwoman. I thought I knew better. And that incident happened in the June of that year. So if you were with me in the June, we're sitting in a white room. Yeah, it's very quiet. But outside, there are telephones ringing off the hook all the time. And in walks this young man with a dark, very long beard, glasses, a white coat and a stethoscope around his neck. Mrs. Barnum, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. We've got a diagnosis for Matthew now. He's got epiglottitis, and you know, I'm really sorry it's taken us so many weeks to find out what's wrong with him. I know you've had several visits into us, it's been very stressful for you, but he's on the right medication now, and he's going to be with us for a few days, but then we're going to send him home. And I'm really sorry it's taken so long for you to get this diagnosis, but you see, we normally see epiglottitis in the very young or the very old. We're not looking at it in your 20-year-old, 15-stone, rugby-playing student son. Well, to be honest with you, after all these weeks of worry, all I could feel was relieved. And Matthew, have you ever been in that situation where you've got something wrong, you just want a diagnosis, don't you? You just want somebody to tell you what's going on. So I left the hospital knowing that finally we knew what was going on, that Matthew was going to be fine. And I went home and I did what every normal person would do. I looked it up on Google. Ever done that?
Yeah.
Made me feel a lot worse. Because in that moment, what I saw was the epiglottis, which is, you've got a little flap at the top of your, yeah, you know where that is? Yeah. If that swells, it cuts off the air supply. Dead boy. Dead boy. And actually the hairs are on the back of my head now, because I remember that journey into that last journey into hospital 2 days before. I think I should have called an ambulance. I don't think I'm going to get in there in time. I wonder if I could remember how to do a tracheotomy. Have you been in a situation where you know that you need to help somebody but you're not really sure what you can do? It's really scary, isn't it? So, coming back to the evening, what was really interesting was that all through this time in hospital, I kept saying to everybody, my son's got irritable bowel syndrome. Do you think that's got anything to do with, what's going on? No, nobody listened to me. Nobody listened to me. Because here, we were in the ear, nose and throat department. We weren't in the gastroenterology department, were we? So they weren't looking at my son holistically. So that light bulb moment, that night when I was sitting in front of that naturopath, when I realised that my gut reaction, we all say that, don't we? My gut reaction was right, that I knew that Matthew's condition preempted this very serious condition that he had. And in that moment, that was when I decided, I have to do something about this. I have to learn how to keep my son safe, and I also need to learn how to keep myself safe. So from there, what I've done is, I've kind of made it my life's passion, really, to now help thousands of people all over the world. I've trained as a functional nutritionist. I'm a Pilates teacher now, and I have written, co-authored 2 books. This is my new book, which is coming out very soon, which you can visit my website for. I'm on a couple of radio shows, I've written magazine articles and events like this, and last week I was awarded an International Speakers Award. So why do I tell you all of that? I'm telling you all of that because through all of this time, years ago I had my own business and I did a huge amount of personal development in those days too. So I've been able to combine that with my nursing experience, because I trained as a nurse too. And with all of that put together, I've put together a program where now I help my clients. I haven't got time to tell you very much about it today, but I'm just going to give you the top line, if that's okay with you. And I've developed a 5-part system that I've identified can help you live the life that Funke is talking about. So this is a practical way for my clients to actually go through an online program or a workshop or whatever it is, to be able to work with me to be able to achieve this life that we want. Because what I'm talking about here is well-being. You've heard of the expression well-being? Yeah. So well-being is defined as having a balance, or enjoying a sense of health, happiness and prosperity. So raise your hand, please, if you know people that are wealthy but they're not necessarily happy. Yeah. Raise your hand if you know people that are healthy, wealthy, but they're not necessarily healthy. Yeah, okay. So well-being is having a sense of all of that. So this program covers all of that. So the first thing we need to do is to prepare. Because unless you understand how to prepare for this journey that you're going to take from where you are now to where you want to be, you're always going to be stuck in the limiting amount of information that you've got here. And as Funke says, it's all about education. So this first section is all about preparing you for your journey, educating my clients as to why they are where they are at that particular time. The second one is prevent, because you see, I believe that prevention is better than cure. Raise your hand if you agree with me, please. We live in a world where the NHS in this country is great, isn't it? The NHS treats 1 million people every 36 hours. 1 million people every 36 hours. I was watching the television yesterday, and the population of London is growing by 100,000 every year. We know that our NHS is struggling, and that's because the majority of people, now I know that's not you, rely on getting ill and the NHS fixing them. And this is the world that we live in. So prevention is the second part, prosperity. And we've referred to this already. Funke gave me a wonderful segue into this. Thank you, Funke. So basically, in order to be healthy, the majority of us